Aye shepherd's pie, greetings from the Philippines. Welcome back to the channel for part 2 of our coffee and a chat on private healthcare and medical insurance in the Philippines. Now, as I say, this is a 2-part video. I will put the link to the first video at the end of this one. If you're one of the very few that watched that video already, you'll know that we discussed the pros and cons of travel insurance versus private medical insurance. This video we're going to look purely at medical insurance. Now, the good news is, because I don't know a lot about private medical insurance, particularly not in the Philippines, is we've got an expert who's going to come on and talk to us about it, hopefully answer our questions and put our minds at rest in terms of what kind of policy we need to have, what kind of money you need to be looking at spending, and what's the best policy for you. Now, the fellow in question, his name's Michael Onstad, and this is the first time I've ever spoken to Michael, but I've heard very, very good things about him. I know a few expats in Dumaguete who use his services, and they speak very highly of Michael. He represents, well, he works very closely with Pacific Cross. I think he works for Pacific Cross. He's a broker who sells their services. So he works closely with them. Now, he's got a team. It's not just himself. He's got a team that works for him, including a fully qualified nurse. Now, he's got an office in, if I've got this right, in Angeles City, and an office in Manila. But he covers insurance, you know, throughout the Philippines, you know, so you don't have to be there in either of those cities to speak to him. You can contact him and he'll speak to you online, or one of his representatives will. As I say, don't know Michael. This is the first time I've spoken to him, but as I say, a couple of expats that I've spoken to who I really value their opinions, they say he's great. They know people, they've told me stories of people who've been with Pacific Cross, but not with Michael, who've had problems, you know, accessing care and claims, etc. But they know several people who have been with Michael and they haven't had a problem at all. He's got them straight into the hospital and got things sorted out. So this is just what I've heard. As I say, I've had no experience with Michael. I've heard good things, but you know, I'm not pushing you in any direction. He's just been kind enough to come on the channel and answer some questions to put my mind at rest. Because as I mentioned in the last video, I'm currently on travel insurance. I've got an annual travel insurance long stay policy with a insurance provider, and that runs out in October. Now, based on the conversations I've had with friends here, I'm almost definitely going to go with Michael. And he's got 2 different policies he sent me the brochures for. He sent me a brochure for the select policies and the, can't remember what the other ones are called now. It was the Royale policies. I'm more than likely going to go with the select policy because what I'm looking for in terms of my healthcare cover is, if I have an emergency, I want to be looked after, I want to be treated, I want to know, you know, I've got that covered. I'm not really interested in long-term treatment or whatever. If God forbid something serious happens to me, I would probably go back to my home country for treatment, or maybe over to Thailand. That might change, but that's the way I'm viewing it at the moment. You know, and that's what I would get with my travel insurance now. You know, travel insurance is going to pay for me to have, you know, long-term treatment in the Philippines. It's just going to pay if I have a catastrophic emergency or something like that to get me treated and then get me home. And that's all at this moment in time I'm looking for. I'm looking for, you know, just to be covered if I have an accident or a heart attack or a stroke or something like that. And a couple of the select policies that he sent me the details of, I'm interested in, because they're a lot cheaper than I thought they would be. We'll go on with the interview now, but at the end what I'll do is I'll put up a few screenshots so you can see the kind of prices of the policies, what you're looking at. They're cheaper than I expect. I think the cheapest one for £1 million peso coverage, which up to £1 million if you have an accident or something like that, in a public ward, so it's not like, you know, a private room or anything special, but it's less than 20,000 for the year, you know, which is less than 300, it's about £140. you know, and you get a card as well with Michael's policy. So if you have an accident, you know, they'll get you straight into the hospital. But anyway, that's enough about that. As I say, I'll put some screenshots up of what's covered, what your options are. I say if you're looking at select policy, it starts at 20,000, but it goes up to you know, 5 million peso coverage with the peso plans, which obviously go up in price. But as I say, I'll add that at the end of the video. We'll go to the interview now, and what I'll do at the end, as I say, when I mail this together, I will put Michael's contact details in the description. So if you want to contact him direct because you want to take out a policy, you've got any questions, then you can do. Okay. Thanks so much for agreeing to come onto the channel. It's much appreciated.
Appreciate the invite.
So I thought we'd start first of all with what's your name of your company and what is it you actually do?
Well, 4 years ago, I came from Canada. I've been in the insurance business 40 years there. And due to the pandemic, a lot of what I had planned fell to pieces. So I decided my best bet was to jump back into an industry I know. So I did a due diligence on the domestic carriers. I stayed away from the international carriers because, of course, their pricing is double or triple the domestic product. But I soon discovered that one of the main issues and the common denominators with the domestic industry is service. It's almost non-existent. It's just not like it is in the West. So I took it upon myself to pick the most likely insurance company to fill all the 9 dots that an expat would be attracted to, and Pacific Cross came out on top. So I worked on them, and I've revised their service infrastructure for my benefit. I am their top producer in the Philippines now, so they listen to me. I have access to management, and when I want a claim settled or I have an issue or a client has an issue, I get it promptly attended to.
Okay, so I see, the reason I'm so happy to talk to you is because I had heard good things about Pacific Cross from YouTube vlogs I'd seen, etc. And a guy I know over here, a good friend, when I was talking to him about it the other day, he recommended you. He knows a few people that have been with you. He says your service was great. And I said, well, really, I want to use Pacific Cross. So when I saw you represented Pacific Cross, I thought, you know, this ticks both the boxes. You know what I mean? What is it that makes Pacific Cross better than the others then? I mean, because I'm assuming that's the only company you work with.
Yeah, I mean, I believe me, it took a lot of work to get them in line to anything resembling Western standards of service, and I couldn't. I just didn't have the time to work on all 3. So I did pick Pacific Cross and concentrated on them. I guess the most attractive feature is the direct settlement arrangement they have with a very extensive accredited network system throughout the Philippines. That's a big one for expats. It gets them into the hospital without cash.
That's what really attracted me to the idea, because the last thing you want to do is end up having a bill for like £20,000 and then fighting to get it back for like 6 months or whatever. So that's a big one to me. That is.
Yeah.
So
well, when I first joined them, 6 months was typical. I've got it down to 30 days, and I'm working on 15.
Okay. Well, that's very good. That's very good. One question before we go on to the services you offer. I did a video a couple of days ago because I explained my situation in the sense that I'm here on an annual. I've got travel insurance at the moment. I got a 1-year backpacker policy, which is supposed to be quite a good one, but I got that because it benefited me in terms of flights and insurance for other things and not the medical insurance. Are there any drawbacks to doing that? You know, is that a good idea for people to start off with, or should they go straight onto private medical insurance? I mean, what do you think?
Well, if their plan is to stay here for more than 6 months, I'd recommend they seriously look at real medical insurance. Problem with the travel insurance is it takes care of emergency medical, and that can be a gray area. For example, if you're hit by a vehicle and you're unconscious, to what extent are they going to pay that? And are they going to pay it directly to the insurer, or are they going to be asking your relatives for cash? You know, it's a bit of a moving target, but that can be the predicament. The other thing is it's not like you can get hit by a bus and then get on an airplane in a week to go home for treatment. They're not going to let you fly.
Okay. I think one of the attractive ones when you look at the travel insurance I found was like, I think I'm covered up for something like £15 million if I have an emergency or the rest of it. But I suppose in reality that figure's irrelevant because it's never going to come to that, is it? I mean, it doesn't have to, you know. It's
I
just
haven't seen anything remotely close to that.
So okay, I'll give you a couple of scenarios now because you sent me 2 brochures. One of them was for Select, and one of them was for, is it the Royale program?
Blue Royale, yeah, that's the US.
Blue Royale, and they're both with Pacific Cross.
Yeah.
One of the situations is I am a 52-year-old guy. My intention is to be covered for an emergency, but if I do get something, God forbid, you know, cancer or something like that, my intention is to go back to my home country, you know, and get treatment there. Expense is important. I want to pay as little as possible, but equally, I don't want to be caught short if I have, you know, a heart attack or a stroke or something like that. What kind of coverage would you recommend in a situation like? What am I looking at paying, and what would be the best policy for me?
Well, I'd recommend the PASO plan. It should be more than sufficient to get you back on the plane, or get you permission to fly. You know, in the event of a serious accident, and if you do get something like cancer, of course you can always travel with cancer. So that's a non-issue.
So on the peso plan, I noticed the first one starts, I think it's £1 million pesos cover. And I think for my age group, it was 20,000 pesos for the year. Is that enough? Is £1 million pesos enough coverage? I mean, should I be looking at more than that if I want to be, you know, completely comfortable, or?
Well, I'd recommend at least a semi-private. It's $1.5 million coverage, but more important is the surgeon's fee. The limit on the surgeon's fee bumps up from 60,000 pesos to 90,000 pesos.
Okay, that's interesting. So you that should be the benchmark, about $1.5 million, you recommend?
Yeah, that's your minimum. Yeah.
Okay. One of the things I noticed as well in that policy, if you go for the cheap option, you've got a ward room. If you go for the semi-private, obviously you've got a better room. What are the wards like in the hospitals over here? I mean, are they pleasant places to be, or are they?
They're crowded. I mean, there's 6 to a room minimum, and then you've got 6 family members for each person. So you've got about 50 people in and out of your space, and I think most of them have that drapery that goes around. So, you know, you should be okay.
Okay, what are the things I was thinking myself personally? I mean, it's going to make me sound like a cheap Charlie now. I've always had private insurance of one kind or another, or travel insurance, and I've been an expat now for 11 years. I've never claimed. So I start to think each year, I know I need the coverage, but I'm just throwing good money after bad. You know, I shouldn't think that way, I know. But when I looked at your policy, I'm thinking, if I went for the semi-private, if the hospital wasn't nice, I'd be able to pay myself out of pocket to upgrade to a private.
Yes, yeah, the room difference is about 1,000 pesos a day, but yes, you can.
So basically, that might be a good move to go for something like a semi-private. When you get in there, say, right, pay yourself to upgrade.
And if you don't like the room, you can upgrade to private. Yeah, that's no problem.
I like the sound of that, because to get it otherwise, I'd have to pay double for the policy. So I'm glad you said that. Okay, what they pay out Pacific Cross, is there a deductible on that? Is it the whole fees up to $1 million? Or?
There's no excess deductible on the facial plan.
Well, that's fantastic then. Because I thought most of the policies they only paid up to 80% or something like that.
No, they pay 100%. But remember, it's an inpatient policy, so you must be admitted.
Yeah. Okay. It's just basically for emergencies.
That's what it's for, and that's all you need here. The small stuff is cheap. You can see a doctor for $20.
Okay. So if I got a lump or something like that while I was here, and I went to the doctor, that wouldn't be covered by the Select at all. That would be
not unless they looked at the lump and then they said, "Wow, we're going to admit you. This has to be surgically removed," then it would be covered.
Okay. Well, to be honest with you, I'm not trying to do a sales pitch for you. I was surprised how cheap it was. I was expecting, when I looked at that plan that you sent me, I thought I was expecting to be more. I was expecting to be double that. So, I mean, from what I know, which is not a lot, it looks like very good value. Okay, just one other question, because again, this surprised me when I was looking at your brochure. A lot of expats have told me when you get to a certain age, you have to self-insure because you can't get coverage. But looking at your plans, they went up to like 100 years. Is that right? You can get.
That's correct. Yeah, but it gets pricey.
Yeah.
You really want to have you want to plan to self-insure by the age of 80. It's my recommendation.
Self-insure entirely, or self-insure still have a peso plan for part of it, or just completely self-insure?
Well, either or. There's a blending.
Okay, that's interesting.
It could be a combination. Yeah.
One of my subscribers asked the question. They're looking at Phil Health, but they weren't sure whether to ignore it completely or use it as a combination. They said that some people are told.
Ignore it completely. It pays for maybe 20% of the hospital bill, and it permanently excludes, for foreigners only, catastrophic illness. They define them as Schedule Z illnesses. You got to look on the website. It's a bit of a murky definition, but bottom line is anything catastrophic or serious, they pay nothing for foreigners.
Wow. I must admit,
now it does have one virtue. It will get you into the hospital.
Okay. I must admit, when I've looked at Phil Health, and I've only looked at it briefly, it doesn't look good at all. It doesn't seem to cover you for much. It's like a small percentage.
No, it's for locals.
Okay. What are the other things that attracted me to the policies, which I wasn't expecting at all? Was it covers you when you go out the country? So if I went to Thailand or somewhere, I would still get some Blue Cross cover. I'd still get some coverage from the Select and the. Yeah, is that
30-day, unlimited 30-day trips. Yeah.
And it says as well, when you go to
the luggage and all that other stuff, it's got a built-in travel insurance.
Yeah. It's just your medical care. But it does say in the when I was reading the descriptions, it talks about accredited hospitals. What happens if you have an accident and they take you just to the first hospital you come to and it's not an accredited one? Are you still covered? You know, if you're in the Philippines?
Yeah, you are covered, but it's on the pay and claim basis.
Okay, so you'd have to pay it and then you'd have to claim it back.
That's right. And that's what my office is very good at.
Fantastic. And you get a card or something.
Pay more to use me. I want to clear that up.
Okay, great. And you, I know you give us a card or something like that, don't you? So you can get straight into the hospital.
Yeah. And if it gets complicated in any way, you contact me. I get my office on it, and we make sure everything's organized appropriately, and it's painless.
Yeah, but I've heard
things tend to get a little, out of hand in the Philippines. As you probably know, it never goes smoothly.
Yeah, well, this is the thing that's always puzzled me, because when I first came here, a lot of the YouTubers said, always make sure you've got cash on your credit cards, so when you get admitted to hospital, they know you can pay for things. And I've always been thinking, well, if I'm unconscious in a bike accident, how will they know if I've got money on my cards? None of it makes any sense, you know?
Yeah, and it's 50-50 that the machine actually works.
Okay. So
that's the reality. I mean, things break down here.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I've seen what the country's like. I think that's why your service is so attractive. As I said in the
Yeah.
video I did the other day, I've always liked to use brokers and experts and that because you might pay a little bit more, but you don't seem to in your situation. But you've got someone to help you against the company. You know, that's I think that's invaluable. So the other scenario is, I'm sorry if I keep talking so fast. I'm just worried my laptop's going to overheat. It's the first time I've done a remote video, so it's usually it's face to face. The other scenario is then for me, I don't want to go back to the UK if I get treatment. I just want to stay here and I want to have the peace of mind that I can go to Filipino hospitals for my cancer treatment and all the rest of that. What would be the what plan should I be looking at then, and what's the minimum coverage I would need to be able to sleep comfortably at night and not worry about it?
Well, I would shift to the Blue Royale, and I'd take on a excess or a deductible. I usually quote it on the basis of 2,500, and the minimum coverage limit is 500,000 US, which is more than enough in the Philippines to take care of everything that I can dream of.
Okay, that's interesting. If you didn't go to that and you were with the select, what happens if you're in the hospital, say you've had a stroke or a heart attack or something like that, and it goes over you go over your thousand, presumably your million. Presumably they don't stop treating you. You just they'll carry on, but you'll start getting the bills for it. Or what happens there?
It'll depend on the good mood of the hospital. That's
Wow.
the moving target. I mean, I know they won't release you until it's paid in full.
Okay.
That would be the most likely. They'd accumulate the bill to some extent, and they wouldn't let you leave until it's paid.
But the 1.5 million you think would cover most of, there's not much it wouldn't cover if you had that.
Yeah, like a heart attack, stroke, or cancer, you should be okay.
Yeah.
But something, like a coma that's lasting months, no, you're gonna run out.
See, that's you've just got me another question here, because I know in the select policies they say that they'll fly. You get transport home and a flight to go back, but that's just a standard flight, is it? That's not like an ambulance.
No, it doesn't pay for your flight.
All right.
No.
Oh, what's the plus travel mean then in the policy when it says plus travel?
Oh, the travel, that's just travel insurance that's built into the plan.
Okay, I thought it meant it included your travel back to get sorted in the UK.
No.
Okay.
No, that's called repatriation. That's a different term.
Okay, I'm glad I asked you that then. Okay, well, what about if you've got the good coverage like you're saying, you've got the 5 million a year policy with Royale, and they can't.
500,000 US.
500,000 US.
Royale.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 million pesos for the select is the maximum.
Okay. So you've got $500,000 package, the dollar plan with Blue Cross. You're getting your treatment in the Philippines, but they can't necessarily give you as good a treatment as they can in Bangkok, for example.
Yeah, you're allowed to go to Thailand for treatment under that plan.
Fantastic. So you can go anywhere as long as it's within the $500,000. You can.
Well, I always quote it with the territorial exclusion. It's a 25% discount. You can't go to Singapore. You can't go to China, Japan, U.S., Canada.
Okay, right, because it's so expensive there to get the treatment.
That's right.
Okay. Well, this is all very interesting. Is there anything else? I mean, I've written down a few random questions, but I don't know what I'm talking about. What else do people need to know? I mean, what would you advise someone if I came to your office?
Conditions, that comes up all the time. I get that question regularly, and this is how it's handled. Accidents are covered from day one. Everything else after 30 days. Pre-existing conditions are subject to a 12-month waiting period.
Right.
You're going to have to pay an extra premium after the 12 months at your option to cover a pre-existing condition.
So if you develop something during that time, the next year when you renew, that's going to be put down as a pre-existing condition. That's going
No,
to be factored in.
no. A pre-existing condition prior to implementation of the policy. If you contract the pre-existing condition during the first year, it's not accounted for. You're safe.
Okay, that's interesting. And with for example, the million peso policy, say on the select one or whatever, is that for, that's it for the whole year? What happens if you get, is that just each time? So if you got run over twice, would you get $1 million coverage each time for each accident, or?
No, a total annual benefit limit of $1 million, and you can have anywhere from 1 accident to 20. But
yeah,
the total is $1 million per year. After the year, it resets back up to $1 million.
And I noticed when I looked at the brochures, it didn't ask any questions about smoking or blood pressure or anything like that. I mean, do you have to have some kind of medical questionnaire before you actually get your final quote?
There's an application. It's pretty straightforward. You answer that, and if they need any additional testing, they'll ask for it.
Okay. So, as I said to you, I am going to use your service, but I'm still covered up until October. But if someone, so what will be the process for me then? What will I do when I contact you and say I want to push ahead with this or whatever?
Well, at least 2 weeks prior to the expiry of your policy, we should get the application rolling, and then we should have your offer in place in time to go ahead.
Okay. So if it, and would I get? I mean, we've had a chat now, but I mean, if someone else in the audience, one of the viewers wants to, what will they do? They'll have a consultation with someone your end, a chat, or is it all done by paperwork, or what happens?
Oh, I do all my consultations by video call.
Okay, so someone contacts you, and then you'll have a chat with them like we're having now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And where are your offices? You're in Manila and Angeles City, have I got that right?
Yeah, I have satellite offices in both Angeles and Manila. I hate to go there because it's complicated. I mostly work out of my home in La Union province.
Okay. Where are your customers? Are they throughout the Philippines? I'm guessing you've got people everywhere.
Yeah, I do annual meet and greets throughout the country.
Wow, you're a busy man. And how would you make payment? Is that by card or by bank transfer? I mean, if I want to take...
There's several ways. Most common is online credit card payment. If you don't like paying online, we can do it offline by credit card or debit card. I've had guys use Wise, Remitly. I've had guys do a bank transfer. That works. And there's several other ways. We always figure it out in the end.
Okay, fantastic. What I'll do is, I mean, I will, when we finish doing the interview, I'll get your details and I'll put them under the, in the description so people can contact you directly if they want to, speak to you further or take up one of the policies. As I said, I'm very wary of the fact I'm not particularly good at asking questions. I don't know much about this, and you just mentioned the pre-existing conditions, which is important. What else would you say to promote your services, or what else do people need to know? If they're looking at, say, going with Blue Cross or something like that, what would you say is better about your policy? I mean, why would you, apart from the fact that they pay directly, what else is important about your policy?
The most important thing in the Philippines is service.
Okay, and that's the service that you're providing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's well, have we missed anything out? Have we covered it all?
You basically covered all the highlights. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this has been very helpful, Michael. Are you the only person? I'm not asking you to talk about other companies or whatever, but are you the only person providing this service? In the Philippines that you know of, like the kind of brokerage and the support.
Yeah.
Good. That's good to know. That's fantastic. Well, if we've covered everything, I'd just like to thank you again. I mean, it's been very. So I'm very surprised how cost effective this is compared to what I thought it would be. What kind of price? I mean, I know roughly what I'm looking at because obviously I'm I'm 52, I'm in quite good health, I'm a non-smoker, etc. When you said when you get to about 80, it will become prohibitive in the cost. At that stage you've got to. But if we're talking around the 60 mark and you drink a bit and you smoke, etc., what are we talking about, you know, for one of the select plans there, the 1.5? I mean, do the costs really start to rocket if you've got an unhealthy lifestyle?
At 60, the premium for the 5 million peso plan is 80,000 pesos a year.
Okay, so that's about £1,200.
Yeah. Yeah, and that, for the semi-private, you're probably looking at 40.
Okay, so it's still a lot less than I thought it would
Falls
be.
off a cliff a little bit at the age of 65 for the peso plan.
Okay, no, that's very reassuring. It really is. Okay, well, I think we've covered everything. I say thank you for your time. I will definitely be in touch. You know, to take up a policy of some sort. It's much appreciated. I'll stop the recording now.
All right, thanks for having me.
No, thank you. And then we can have a quick chat about what we're going to put for your contact details and things in the video. Okay,
so there we go. Hopefully you found that informative. Put my mind at rest. I must admit, it's good to know that you can get coverage in later years, because a lot of people told me once you get to 65, 70, you got to self-insure. But according to Michael, and he knows his stuff, he reckons he's up to 80. Now, let's be honest, there's a good chance I might not make it to 80. So, in which case it doesn't really matter, does it? But yeah, I found that quite reassuring, you know, that you can get coverage up until 80. I mean, you might not want coverage, you might want to self-insure at 75. I'm no expert on this. I'm taking everything that Michael said in the video at face value. You know, sounds good to me. I'm going to go one of the policies. But obviously you do your own research. You know, don't take anything that I'm saying. I'm not in a position to give you advice. And although Michael seems like a great bloke, obviously he's representing, you know, can't think what they're called now. What's it called? Ellen, what's it called? Pacific Cross. That's it, Pacific Cross. So all sounds good to me, but as I say, you know, do your own research. If you want to speak to Michael, he said he's more than happy for you to contact him. You know, if you're in the Philippines or you're coming to the Philippines, you know, to sort things out. The link is in the description. You know, ask him a question, you know, and hopefully he can hook you up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say my goodbyes, and I will put up a couple of screenshots from the brochures I got in terms of what the Select policy costs, what it covers, because you've got the Select and the Select Plus. But if you want any further information, I say contact Michael directly. He'll send you the brochures, I'm sure, digitally like he sent me, and then you've got it there and you can answer any questions. So there you go. Not much else to say to you. As I say, hopefully you found the video informative. If you did, smash the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, it would be fantastic if you did. Whether you do, whether you don't, wherever you are, stay safe, be lucky,